Hi, Ajay, Shubham. Yes, we'll just wait for the Ahmedabad Hub to join as well. Thank you, Shubham. We have someone who's joined. Can't see yet. Hi, Ajay. Can see you now.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Hi, Madish.
Hi, Ajay.
Hi, Madesh.
Hi. Fantastic.
Nice.
Congrats to the entire team of Kolkata Hub for pulling out this initiative.
Yeah, also Ahmedabad Hub.
Yeah.
I think it's nice to have
Uh,
this collaboration from east to west.
next blow. Next blow.
Yeah, I think Surbi is just logging in. Are both of y'all in office?
Yes.
Looks like Ajay is also in office.
For me, the audio is quite low. Like, I don't know, for some reason.
I can hear everyone clearly. I hope there is no network issue. Surbi. Okay, looks like Surbi will take a minute or two to join in, but probably I can just start in the sense that both Ajay and Mathish have been curators of their hubs. And I guess both of you all have also worked in Earth Day Network. And I guess you all have collaborated a bit as well, Ajay was telling me, as a part of
Yeah.
Earth Day Network.
Yeah.
Yeah. So was this recent or uh, was it a few years ago?
So I think it's quite a while. I think in also with the Earth Day network, and then I encountered with Ajay, and then I realized that he's a part of the Global Shapers community.
Yeah.
So it was really great. Then trying to have a sustainable partnership in the Earth Day network. Trying to plug into different initiatives, whatever we have. Like recently, we had a World Environment Day celebration with the Department of Climate Change. We tried doing it, Earth Day network as a partner. Had the Asia coming and try to fix up different meetings with the state government officials. So, plug in, how people can be great.
Madhish, sorry, but I guess you're cracking up a little. Maybe because you're away from the phone, or
Maybe it's now. How is it
yeah,
now? Is
yeah,
it
this is
better?
better. Yes, correct. Yeah.
So what I was saying is, like with the Earth Day Network, we have been trying to put our efforts, to bring more collaboration in the state of Gujarat and engage more young people into different initiatives. So recently with UNICEF, Department of Climate Change and the state government, Department of Forest, we had the celebration of World Environment Day. So where we saw a lot of young people coming forward to this greater agenda and where of course Earth Day was a partner. We also had an issue call, from Earth Day, join the dialogue and on one of the panel, right? We are trying to create a sort of more awareness and activate more, a greater network of young people in the state of Gujarat, to have a dialogue around this. So that has been, quite of efforts, and Ajay has been very helpful. We had series of calls before the event, Miss Nisho, and we are trying to, do a bit, what best the yeah.
Nice. It's a small world, so I
Yeah.
guess, and it's good that there are lesser organizations and more people, so we kind of bump into each other. Nice. Hi, Surbi. You're finally there.
I'm so sorry.
Ah, it's okay.
Hi, Santi.
Hi, Madhu. Hello. Hello, everyone.
I
So, what did I miss and what's going on?
Nothing much. We just killing some time.
Okay, okay.
we missed you. Basically, we have a partnership with EJF and Kolkata Hub, and we're what all we have been doing
Your voice
so far.
not even clear.
Yeah, I think you all
Uh,
might really
Yeah,
want to come close to the phone, because you might be cracking up.
yeah.
Yes.
there's some correct.
Oh, can you all hear me?
Yeah, it's better.
Okay, I think we can now formally start. Hi, everyone. We are all ready. And first, I would like to thank the Ahmedabad Hub for this collaboration, and thank you, Madhish and Ajay, for making time, and also Surbhi. So how we'll go about it is Surbhi and I will be, moderating and probably asking questions, driving the discussion, and yeah, we can probably take it from there. So, firstly, welcome Manish. For those of us who are watching here, he has been, driver of social causes since his childhood. I guess he was an NSS volunteer. It started from there, and then went on to become the Presidential National Youth Awardee. That's a really big award in the youth category in India. And he's represented India on various international platforms also. Uh, and he's currently the founder and president of Elixir Foundation, which is working on quite a few initiatives in for inclusive growth of communities, helping schools create impact, cleanliness drives, and a lot more. So this is just a little bit about him, and we can see a lot on his profile all over social media. So I will hand it to Surbi to introduce Ajay.
Yeah. So I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but as I read and as I Ajay has been like a climate cop from Brisbane, and he has been like training from Brisbane. That's one of the best institutes which is actually working on climate change throughout the world. He has been trained there, and he's actually working with today, engaged into various activities which is into sustainability, worked into various aspects, and basically all organizations which are working towards climate change and towards sustainability, he has been involved with that. So these are our esteemed people who are gonna share their views on plastic free July in the current discussion. So I guess without further delay, we should just begin with what exactly would we like to discuss today.
Right. Thank you, Surbi. And today's discussion is mostly around plastic-free July, though we all agree that there is no one month that should be claimed for becoming plastic-free. But at least this is a good way to market things and remember uh, and tell the world about that we should not use plastic. So let's discuss about the role of individuals, institutions, and the government in this cause. So first, I would like to ask Madhish on his the Swachh Bharat cleanliness drives that are happening as a part of the Exeler Foundation, as to what exactly are they regarding, and how much are we able to curb plastic pollution from there, and what do we do of the waste that we find?
Sure, thanks. Right, so we are very mindful about consumerism and of how we live a lifestyle, at Elixir Farm. This is a sort of greater concept that we promote among the youth community whom we, right? And then we also work with partners who want to contribute to the environment or reduce the carbon footprints. So at Elixir we have set programs that we engage young people into climate conservation through different initiatives, set of initiatives. The great objective, where we engage young people, because we try to develop a sense of ownership in them about the environment and the nature, because as we move to more towards a materialistic world, we see a lot of disconnect between the young people and nature. Maybe I think the youth of today is lost in the mobile phone. They're not aware how beautiful. So I think, if it is if we manner, if we do it in a jovial way, if we connect people to the nature, I think the connect and the true value, they will find a purpose, and that's how a greater message to protect the environment, protect the nature. We have series of CSR initiatives with our different corporate partners in India, where we engage their employees into the employee engagement volunteering initiatives, where we have young people who lead those senior employees of that particular corporate. And this entire drive exercise happens across different parts of India, maybe beach cleanups, river cleanups, upcycling different products. These all things have been happening across the country. And recently we also did one of the activity with Shubham Bakuli from Kolkata Hub, an upcycling activity with one of our corporate partners in Calcutta itself. So Elixir has always promoted a sustainable approach, reducing the waste, as much as possible, and then I would also share a fantastic project that we had at Ahmedabad Hub, and then it moved out to be a startup. So in Ahmedabad Hub we found that a lot of waste pans are produced, all the non-refillable pans, use and throw pans. So what happens to these pans? You are not mindful about where it goes. When the pan is over, you just throw it anywhere, and you never know where it goes, right? So there are so many pans. You can imagine if a school has 4,000 kids, in 1 week they finish one pan, right? So you can multiply the number, and then you can multiply with the number of schools, how many waste pans come into the, on the land. So we started a project at Ahmedabad Hub that's called Pen Pulse, where all these waste pens were upcycled into beauty products like, earrings, and then different ornaments, and then chairs were made, furniture was made out of these waste pens. So this entire project, turned out to be a great project, and then it moved out of the hub to be our own startup, founded by Prakshal and Richa from Ahmedabad Hub. So this is a wonderful story. I think also it is not just about doing a awareness campaign or doing different drives, but also trying to be innovative. How you address this entire problem. I think that really brings a change. Yeah.
Interesting. That's not restricting ourselves only to cleanliness drives or something, but taking it forward. That's a really good idea.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Manish. Also, my next question is like towards Ajay, but I would like Manish also to pick in if you feel the need. So there are a couple of approaches to see sustainability and how like a person can imbibe in their life. But more or less, it is also thrown in the hands of government, comes into the picture, communities comes into the picture, and we ourselves come into the picture. So what do you think could be an approach, like could be a best possible approach to look into it, and how people can actually, in practice, reduce their plastic waste and increase the awareness towards it? Which are the best possible ways which we can think of?
Yeah, thank you for inviting me and being part of this. So I think first I would like to kind of highlight a little bit on why this discussion on plastics is kind of important and why this is a big problem, right? So with plastic is an excellent product if you see that way, because it's inexpensive, it's very durable, it's so easily available, and it reduces cost, and it's so flexible as a material, right? So that's why its use has become so pervasive in our life that everything you look around, there is plastics. Probably the specs that you are using right now has some bit of plastics in there. The pen that we are using, some of us are using headsets. Everywhere you will find plastics. But then what is the problem with plastic? I think there are a few problems with plastic. One is that because this material is something like plastics are for forever, what happens with them, it's very difficult to, what do you do after use of plastic? One is, if you try to burn them, it will be a lot of emissions. If you try to bury them in the soil, then there is again a leachate form which kind of will pollute the groundwater. And if you just litter it, we know what all the problems happen. It ends up in marine ecosystems, cause a lot of damage to biodiversity, and it pollutes our rivers, water bodies. And the most dangerous thing is that plastics, although do not kind of degrade, but they kind of start losing the material, and it becomes microplastics, which now scientists are telling are entering in as deeper into our bloodstream. So that is causing a lot of health impacts on life. But there is another one side of things, which is plastics are also part of petrochemicals, right? And their origin is from fossil fuels. 99% of the plastic that we use are synthetic plastics, and they're originating and coming out from fossil fuels. So it is as good as a contributor to climate change, this thing, as anything else. So it's also linked to the problem of climate change, and it's not just about littering and this thing. Also, what is the issue is that recycling could have been a solution, but it has not worked from what we have seen in past experiences. Collecting plastic is a problem. Segregating of plastics, the various kind of plastics, then making products out of it is not 100% environmentally responsible process. So all of this really complicates the use of plastic, and that is the problem. Now coming back to sustainability, I think the solutions for sustainability is not different for plastics or for any other use of material. It has the common basic principle, which I think Gandhiji kind of explained years ago, is need-based, right? The problem is the mindless consumption. If we are using anything which is mindlessly, we are consuming more of a material, and any material will always have an environmental impact. Doesn't matter what material it is. Even if we are using solar panels, to manufacture the solar panels, huge amount of energy consumption is required, right? So I think the one point answer in terms of sustainability, I think, is more conscious consumerism. You will have to be more responsible on use of any material that you use, anything that you use, because everything that we are using has consumed some energy. While we are talking right now, we are using some energy, but if all the products that we are using, the phone, the t-shirt that I'm wearing, everything has consumed some energy to become a product, right? So everything has an environmental impact. Unless we consume more responsibly, I don't think there is a solution we have with all the different recycling and those things. Those are just kind of banded solutions, but the real solution is reducing your impact.
Yeah, agreed. We should, use things for our need and not for our greed, like Gandhiji said. And very rightly pointed out, Ajay, that plastic is, we must be conscious about which plastic we are talking about, because not all plastic is bad. Single-use ones, which we know, the disposable, the single-use, which have percolated so deep in all our lives. I think that is where our focus should be to, cut them down as much as possible. Right. Um, I think as far as institutions are concerned, or say governments are concerned, what I feel is the policies that are coming up to curb the use of plastics, they are a little bit, they're all very silos. So the government is doing its work, but that is in silo. The corporates are doing their work, but in silos, and consumers, they are also working in silos. So I think there probably needs to be like this integrated approach towards uh, curbing the use of plastics. So, do you all think, Ajay or Madhish, that you know the corporations should probably respond to the policies that the government is making, and then because the companies have made such policies, and the consumers will be led to follow that. So it's like basically today the corporations or any retailers, they just ask, do you need a plastic bag? And the question is so framed that you say yes, but if the other way around, the questions would have been, are you environmentally conscious and have you brought your own bag from home? So if there are certain questions that are posed in a manner by the corporates, then probably everything can go hand in hand, because uh, we've seen people say lose weight, don't use plastic. Things don't work just by saying or telling or spreading awareness. There need to be incentives and proper nudging. So what do you all think on these lines?
What,
We can't hear you, Madhish.
uh, can you?
Yeah, slightly.
It's still breaking, I guess.
Yeah, a little bit.
Am I better now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me change my network. Wait.
Okay.
Am I better now
Yes.
with the network?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Sure. So, as Ajay said, that why people choose plastic, because, there are certain add-ons, like it's more convenient. Second one, it's durable, it's inexpensive to produce. I think there are certain multiple reasons. And plastic has become so much of an integral part of our life that we find it now difficult, to get rid out of it. But that's not the case. There has to be behavioral change. How that can come, there are two ways. Number one is incentives, and second one is reinforcements, right? And I think the policy level, I think implementation, that can happen at a massive scale at the national level, or globally. I think policies can drive that particular change. Now, particularly talking about the recent policy, that the government of India has, declared that either the manufacturing, import, the stocking or distribution, sale of single-use plastic, that has to stop, very effective from the first of this particular month. Right now, even before this, moreover, there was an amendment earlier in 2021 that, that the use of plastic, that are less than 75 microns, they have to be banned. And before that, it was less than 50 microns. So I think the government is trying to bring in the enforcements in phases, because see, you cannot enforce everything at once. Otherwise, it will create a state of panic, right? And secondly, there should be cooperation from the local civic bodies, because I think the last mile impact comes from the civic bodies. See, we also need to understand that who is the government, right? We are the government. People like us sit in the government body, right? They frame the laws, and the people who make sure that the laws are implemented are people like us, right? So I think the drive start with us. If we have to be the change that we wish to see in the world, that is what Gandhiji said, right? And this has to happen. This is what I believe. Now, particularly talking about my city, say for example, when I talk about Ahmedabad Municipal Corporation, Ahmedabad Municipal Corporation has been quite very active, and they have formed different squads and teams, and the senior committee member is a 7-member senior committee, which makes a check that, no vendors, no shops, are using the single-use plastic. So if I would like to talk to you in numbers and figures, we have 40 wards in my city, and AMC has issued, that is Municipal Corporation, issued more than 60,000 notices, to different vendors for using single-use plastic, and the amount of fine that was collected, that is more than 9 crores. So you can imagine, even after the policy enforcement, even after the law is there, even when the people that they're being punished, for breaking or violating this, that has been practice. So, we have to, come out with different innovative solutions. How we can motivate them? I think incentivizing this reinforcement is one, but how we can incentivize this entire model, bring a different alternative approach to it. I think that.
Right, yeah. Yes, thank you, Madhish, for that answer.
Yeah, thanks. I mean, that was a wholesome answer, actually. So, I planned 2 more questions, and you pretty much answered them both in this particular answer, because I was asking about how do you feel Ahmedabad Corporation is working towards it. And the second question was, of course, like how is the policies and the implementation towards reducing plastic waste has been taken care of, which is pretty much addressed. I would like to, take this discussion towards more of a community side now, wherein what do we feel like? How should an individual, because that's pretty much top question, how can an individual reduce plastic waste, and that's pretty much available on the internet all throughout. But what do you think that why should the why be? No, because as Ajay mentioned very clearly, that plastic is wonderful material, it's affordable, it's easy to carry, it's light in weight. So what could be an individual's motivation to reduce plastic in their life? I mean, this is directed towards both of you, and what do you guys feel?
I'll give you a simple example. Say, for example, you want me to use public transport. It is going to help environment. It is going to help the climate, right? But if I do not have a last mile connect, definitely, in that case, I'm personal.
Right.
I do not have, because, as a youth, as an aspiring individual, I want to save time and have a balanced approach.
Yeah.
So the best way to ensure this to have a last mile connect. Now, same is the case with this entire scenario with the plastic. So here we do not need to look the silos or in an independent. So if we talk about the of individuals or the industry, they are not independent from each other. We have to club this entire situation. Now, for example, when the policy raises awareness of in our daily life, industries must ensure and provide convenient options for consumers. Like, say for example, care products. Say for example, you're going to a yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So when the government is coming with the law, single-use plastic, and it's. I think industry should also actively participate in this and provide convenient options to the consumer base. Say for example, to personal and home care products. Say for example, you are buying bottle. Why can't you go and refill the bottle every time? So there are no such options. So customer has to by default go and buy a new bottle of shampoo each and every time. That's one example. So there can be different ways, that directly comes from the industry. Get, customers to reduce their plastic consumption. If certain options like this, right?
You feel
Say for
consistency is
example,
one of the things.
yeah, yeah.
Okay. And what about you, Ajay? What do you feel? What should be the motivation?
You're on mute, Ajay. You're on mute, I guess, Ajay.
Sorry. So a lot of the solutions Manish already kind of pointed out, and I think definitely it requires a multi-stakeholder approach. It's not like that one person can kind of this thing, but of course there are different layers of action required at an individual level, at a community level, at consumer production level, and this thing. So some of the things is very kind of stupid also if you look at. Like for example, a lot of products that exist, they should not exist at all. Like for example, a few days ago, I found a product being promoted, which is a plastic bottle. Mein they are filling in dark water and selling, right? So it is a useless product to me. I don't know. It really it's funny, right? So why are we doing this? Like it's funny, right? So some of these products, so that kind of abusive use of some of these materials, some of these products, which I think should not exist, but they are just marketed well as health product. So they're promoting that product as an organic health product, right? But it's not required. At least in a country like ours, where there are so many vendors on the road, there are so many options available, it's much easier. In a Western society, maybe there is so organized retail, it might be a little difficult, but in our countries, everywhere you go, there are so many options. I am sure in Ahmedabad you can get so many options like lassi, chaj, fresh juice and everything. Why would you consume a packaged product? I'm just giving one example of how this works. And everything you buy local, which is another thing which Gandhi said is not mass production by masses, right? So that is a solution, because it not only addresses the problem of environmental issues, because those issues were not even a concern when he kind of wrote about these things, but it also is a result of inequality in the society because of this mass production, centralized production concept. So this is actually a problem. When you try to address these problems, you solve a lot of these problems. By when you buy local, it's good for your health to consume fresh fruit juice than a packaged fruit juice, right? So these are very, very conscious things. They are just doing things mindlessly. So that I think is required to be adopted at an individual level and at a society level. At a society level, right now at Kolkata Hub, we are going to work with the forum under a project where we are going to develop concepts of circularity at an residential community level. So what we are going to do there is we're going to target a few communities, educational institutions, and work with them to draft a policy for their organizations, not just on waste management, but how can they reduce material consumption within their organizations. And they have to pass certain rules and regulations. For example, if there are events happening in their institutions, they cannot use disposables, or they can use only disposables which are biodegradable. These are just examples what I'm talking about. So these is what community-led action can be. And another layer which I think Manish also briefly talked about is this regulation which was passed from 1st of July. Now, as responsible citizens, as communities, we have a very big responsibility here to play, because it is such an unorganized market. Has everything gone out? Like all this plastic is out of picture? No, you will still find a lot of these banned single-use plastics in the market. That is where I think we have a role to play, where we have to work with our local governments to report these things, and also explain to these vendors who may not be so aware about the impacts of plastic pollution. One, it is illegal to do things now. Second is the impact on environment. So we have to convince them and not just call out them and force them to transition into alternatives which are available or be more sustainable in practices. I think all of this is our responsibility as individuals and communities.
Right. This is
Agreed.
actually a very good way to look into it, when we take individual as a responsible person, and then when we proceed on to share that awareness, that makes a huge impact. And because the connection would be local, so that's how the impact has been created. With this, I think we have pretty much discussed about why plastic is such a wonderful material, starting with that and ending up why it is a big problem, and how, as an individual, how as policymakers, how government is actually doing something, and how we can bring together a larger change in life uh, throughout, like environment, nature, whatever the goal that we are speaking into. Would we like to address some questions from the audience, or how would we like to proceed into it?
Yeah, we can. But I don't see any questions. Audience, if you have any questions, you all can post it in the chat and we can ask on behalf of you.
I guess someone mentioned that consumerism and awareness regarding the use of single-use plastic is something which is a concern, which we discussed already. Apart
Right.
from it, I haven't seen
And
any
I think
questions which have
what
started around.
just one point to note from what Ajay said about having coconut water in a plastic bottle, which is probably a requirement of the West, where we have organized retail, but aren't we like moving towards the West? Blindly copying the West, not knowing the idiosyncrasies of India or taking into account our population. Yes, Madhish.
Adding to this, what I saw was really funny, that blew off my senses. I saw an Instagram reel where they were packaging coconut,
Yeah.
they were packaging coconut in a plastic wrap. You, the fruit already has a very good protective shell. You don't need plastic coating over it. But see, this is consumerism, like people fancy, this fancy. So if there is a demand, of course, this is going to happen. So I think we have to be sensible, what thing. I think wrapping a coconut in a plastic foil, this is something,
Yes. Well, I think that's about it, and it's good to see that Sikkim became like an organic state, and we heard few days back that Chandigarh is on its way to become one after they like at least they are trying. So if states can come up with these, which is like a very big uh, target to achieve, and even declaring and saying that we are trying to move towards this is a big thing in itself. But yeah, we should continue our efforts in our own capacities, in our as the power that we have, being the head of institutions, and being responsible shapers to probably spread this message ahead. I think we should keep doing our bit.
Yeah.
Every drop makes an ocean, right? So,
yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
All right.
Would we have, you guys want to have some concluding lines individually before we end this session? I know you have an answer.
Sorry, I didn't get the question.
Do you guys want to have some concluding lines before we just end it?
I think the concluding line for me is that see, some of these measures that we are trying to do are makes us feel good, but they are not making any drastic and immediate impact that we require right now at the scale that is required. The situation is very, very bad. If you look at the climate crisis right now, it requires drastic and immediate action, and some of these actions that we do makes us feel good, and nothing beyond that. It doesn't create a dent. So what is required right now is something which is drastic and immediate. So that is what is required. So all of these efforts are good. It is required, but we need people to take action which are very concrete. And so whenever this opportunity is there with government coming up with something, if we don't contribute to it and make it a success, then it will not go any further, because as you see, these are incremental changes that government is trying to do. But we have to really participate and encourage this action to make it drastic and immediate, because it is the only option. It's an existential threat. So I think there was somewhere in between, someone talked about what is the motivation or incentive, or what greater can be an incentive than survival on this planet. what more you need on this thing. So we are the modern day Kalidasa, killing our own planet consciously. So I think we are fools. So what others
But I think,
can you think
Yeah.
of? So I think that is my concluding line. Whatever we do right now has to be drastic and immediate. Otherwise, there is no other solution that is there
or
that I can think.
probably people have too much of hopes on Elon Musk to take us to Mars, and hence we're like, "Yahan jo hona hai, wo ho." I mean, that's
No, but then we stop, think, and take a pause and think that now we degraded this planet to such an extent, and now we think that we will live successfully on. Are we not going to repeat
yeah,
on a planet? Are we not going to do the same things on a planet?
correct.
So I think COVID was a very warrior to climate change, especially because in the 1 year of lockdown, atmosphere climate was so crystal clear. I think I I I I think we as a human race, we need to stop, take a pause, and try to recollect ourselves as a civilization. Yeah, I think that's a serious question. I think, are we lost or where are we heading? Because it's not just about us, but it is about the generations that are going to come, right? How we leave this planet more sustainable. Instead of exploring planets, first we should make life on this planet more livable. This is what I feel.
Yeah, totally agree. Okay,
Okay, thank you.
thank you both,
Yeah,
Madhish and Ajay, for
yeah.
taking out time. It was a
Thank
great discussion and probably the first step in our collaboration forward. And thank you, Surbi, also for joining with me.
No,
Thanks for being
for having.
both. Thanks. Thank you so
Thank you so
Thank you
much.
Thank you,
so much,
everyone.
everyone. Bye
Thank you,
bye.
everyone.
much.
Bye.
Bye.
Welcome, John.